and thrive. Step inside, the future's now. Welcome to the Power Hour.
Don't you just love it? I've written a intro theme tune that is just long enough for me to go to the fridge and get a cold drink. Welcome, everybody, to the Power Hour. Today, I'd like to discuss the world that is live streaming. And I can promise you, there's no way we can get this subject done in an hour. Wow. Talk about deep. So many issues. We'll have to get through those in follow-up content, but let's try and get the basics going. And let's see if we can get Mike to help us without him now adding another 6 hours. Because we fortunately have a guy here who did streaming before even anyone knew what the word meant. If you want to go deep, Mike can take you deeper than the Mariana Trench. He'll even give you the code on how to build your own server for streaming. But for most of us, that sounds like a little bit more than we want to take on. Now let's think of the scenario. Either you or your customer comes to you. You've got an event booked or an event planned, or you're thinking about doing an event. He comes up with those immortal words. Could we stream it too? Then there could be, well, I don't know what they could be because I can't get a consistent answer even out of AI. How many social media places are there which allow you to stream content live to them? Or if you're in a cruel hacker world, maybe you can hack a stream to them. Go on, I challenge you. Put into the chat all the different social media places that you think you could go, and we'll check in case there's one we haven't thought of. The most extreme one I have is I am. Would you believe it? I'm a authorized TikTok streamer. So I spent enough time mucking around with TikTok that I can now live stream to TikTok. I say that as if, you know, that sounds like I'm really important, because at the time I did it, you had to jump through so many blasted hoops to get there. It might be a lot easier now. TikTok might just say anyone can be a streamer. All you need is, you know, a couple of mates to like you. I don't know what the rules are. And the rules have changed because they changed a few times when I was following it. I don't follow it anymore. So there are a lot of places you can stream. That's what I'm just saying. And a lot of ways you can stream. I don't think I could stream to TikTok the way I'm streaming to everyone now, because you have to have specialist studio software, TikTok. But a lot of these services seem to still hide behind that great friend of ours, RTMP. And that's really neat because, and you've only got 5 minutes, Mike. Mike will be able to tell you, and he will be able to talk, and we might even time him. He'll easily talk for 5 minutes, naming all the different types of devices and interfaces that he could set up that would allow RTMP streaming. Because it's the common way. It was the original way, I believe. He'll correct me, but it was the original way of talking to these services. We are, or I was just checking on the screen to make sure I really am. Yeah, we are RTMP-ing. Oh, that doesn't sound good. Anyway, we are using the RTMP protocol to talk to YouTube, for instance, at the moment. And if I have a look, we're using a third-party software, which we'll get into later, to stream to as many ridiculous places as I could find. So we are streaming to 2 YouTube channels that I own, 2 YouTube channels that Mike has control over, a LinkedIn profile of mine, and a Facebook page that I don't think I've used for at least 3 years. And I can even see that there are a few people, or nobody's on my Facebook page. Sorry, I forgot. I'm also streaming to LinkedIn if that connection stays up. It hasn't before. That doesn't give me a number. But I'm told by Mike that the LinkedIn feed is live. So if you want to come and hunt me down on LinkedIn Live, that's fine. Except I can't get any stats apparently from that, so I don't know. But all the other platforms, apart from my Facebook page, have people on there. So wherever you are on the social media world, let's talk about where you are, how you are, and what's going. So Mike, this RTMP world of talking to a lot of the socials, this is quite a good basic way of people talking to and other people talking to. And because it's such a common protocol, there's a ridiculous number of ways you can do it, aren't there, really? If you just want to go one-to-one, which is what we're going to start with. And welcome, dear friend, to the show.
Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Live streaming. Ooh la la. 5 minutes, huh?
Yep.
All right. So
Tell us
what would you like me to dive into first? So you want to, the one-to-one scenario.
One-to-one scenario, RTMP, what sort of places or devices or whatever could send an RTMP signal to, just say, one YouTube channel?
All right. So the easiest way would be to have, there are many different, so we can, again, the list is long and distinguished. The RTMP protocol has been around since Adobe introduced it in the early 2000s. And it was, so John's sort of correct. RTMP is not the first, but it is the most popular, and it's actually lasted probably, we're at least 15 years in when it comes to RTMP, the actual RTMP protocol. So it's in itself is robust. Is it the best? No. And that's why there's newer technology coming out, which we might dabble in today. I don't know, but let's take it one step at a time. So RTMP, so as long as the device or the piece of software has capabilities of having RTMP built into it. So this could be a hardware device, such as cameras. Yes, John asked me just before we went there, does Mike's cameras have RTMP capabilities? Yes, they do. They also have this other 3 letters, which we'll maybe talk about later, but we're sticking with RTMP right now. So RTMP, in theory, you could actually go from our cameras, RTMP directly to a RTMP server / service, which could be YouTube. Yes. So that basically, that service has to have an RTMP, what we call in the production world, an RTMP ingest server.
Okay.
So that it understands the RTMP protocol coming from either a device, a physical hardware device, or could be a piece of software that has the RTMP protocol built into it. So it's either hardware or software going to an RTMP server. In this case, today, we're showing off YouTube, we're showing off LinkedIn, we're showing off Facebook.
That's fantastic. We're halfway through your 5 minutes. You're doing well.
Thank you.
I'm sure yours is not the only camera that can do this. Are there different, can you suggest some different, so what can we say, classes of cameras that do these things? Like you've got PTZ, so is it quite common for professional PTZ cameras to have this feature?
It is, as long, what it comes down to is does it have enough of a brain in it to be able to take the actual video signal that's coming from the actual camera that's built into it and being able to turn that data into RTMP out of the camera. Okay. So yes.
And there are other types of cameras that do this?
So again, the type of cameras, again, would have to have some sort of brain that does the translation from the analog video coming into it either being the camera image itself and being able to take that internally and then RTMP it out. You could potentially have that in, if the DSLR has the capabilities, there's potential of that. There are, now again, what units will not have this are webcams. So again, webcams will need, if you plug that webcam into something, be it a piece of hardware or a PC or Mac, insert here, then you'll have to have some sort of software that does the RTMP.
Are you
And John
reading my
says yes.
notes? Are you
I am
reading my
not.
notes?
I'm
Okay,
sorry,
you're
was that,
no, you're
was that
keeping up with them
ChatGPT's
beautifully.
note?
That was fantastic.
good.
You followed them beautifully.
All right,
So if a
I-
camera doesn't support the RTMP,
correct.
then the next connection down could. And as you say, and my notes are in that order, so that's terrific. The next connection down could be if you've plugged it in via USB cable.
Yeah.
Which is what, as you say, webcams would do. So
Yeah.
if there is a piece of software on the machine, or maybe software, because I have a feeling I've seen a couple of budget webcam third-party software that will take the camera, and then within the package they give you the software that does the RTMP. I can't name drop anybody because I can't remember what the name of it was, but so we can have the camera connected by USB, which I know you don't like because it's not professional, and I know a lot of our watchers don't like because it's not professional, but that could be them processing. So the other way of bringing the signals down is going to be a HDMI, which I know you still don't like, or it could be SDI,
Mhm.
and those will generally go into a piece of hardware, whether it's I had one on my desk a minute ago and I haven't got it now. Whether it's a card plugged in the back of a PC,
Right.
or it's a physical device on its own, there
That
are
has an
devices
input.
that will take
Correct.
those signals, and there are many of those that can have RTMP built into them as well.
Correct. Yes. So there are specific, and so there it is, the A10 Mini Pro, perfect example because it has a built-in, and this is the important word, everyone, that we're going to learn today. You need an encoder, and we are talking right now about RTMP based encoders, right? So the RTMP protocol itself, even though you might say, well, Mike, I have RTMP built into insert software here, OBS, vMix, Mimo Live, da-da-da. Yes, on the Mac side as well. Absolutely. But again, all of them have built in the RTMP encoder capabilities into their software so that the encoder can be sent to an RTMP server to be decoded.
Okay. But you've now you've missed a bit. You've jumped ahead a bit
Done?
now because
All right, fine.
so let's step back just one step.
Stepping back. Yeah, stepping back.
We were talking about hardware encoders and you got a bit excited and started talking about software encoders. So let's go back to the hardware encoders.
Sure.
Okay, we know that almost the lowest level of ATEM, the ATEM Pro, was certainly the second one up in the family, isn't it? Has the RTMP encoder. I know a lot of other higher level ATM products have the encoder in it. I'm getting the words now. Everybody's impressed. Aren't you impressed, audience? But a lot of the, I'm not trying to, okay, this is just the way I see it, right? There are a lot of products who have looked at what the ATEM models do and have taken that as their basis, and then they've added other features and they've built. There are many products now in that area that are in that price range of what, $400 or $500 to perhaps $2,000 that are switchers of some sort. And I do notice that a good number of them, I would probably dare to say maybe, Mike, a majority of them will have this feature. And if they have a family of products in that range, then certainly the higher level ones in that range will have the feature of an encoder, so they can stream directly to, as we're keeping for the example at the moment, RTMP to YouTube.
Right. Yeah. So basically what's built, what Blackmagic for the A10 Mini Pro as an example has in it is they have an encoder chip, a designated encoder chip that's job is to only do RTMP, or we'll talk about the other letters later. But we're sticking with right now. It does RTMP in it, and it will send that RTMP stream out the Ethernet port, in this case for the A10 Mini Pro, to the destination of your choice.
Okay. So the next level down, and then we'll do a summary to see if everybody's kept up, especially me. The next level down, of course, is that those cameras could go direct to a PC by USB. They could go indirectly to a PC via a capture card or any of these products that we've been talking about. And then, as you said earlier, there could be software on the computer, and the software can emulate what the encoder chip can do, and the software can then have the conversation with whatever streaming service that you're connecting to.
Yeah. So basically what the software then will do is start to utilize the CPU and GPU of that PC Mac insert here, right? So that's where the trade-off then becomes, and depending on the software that you've used, depending on the platform you use, you know, in the Windows world, they will offload that a lot to the GPU. So again, John and I know vMix very well. vMix will say, oh yeah, if you want an RTMP encode to YouTube, in this case, definitely I'm going to be using your NVIDIA graphic card, because I'm going to use its brain instead of using the CPU's brain, because the CPU's brains were worried about what video cameras you want to switch to.
That's brilliant. And we've done it in about 5 minutes, which is fantastic. There is one, it's going to be a load, but there is one big issue that we need to bring up now, which Mike's already beautifully alluded to, performance.
Mm-hmm.
We have a performance issue that we need to be aware of.
Yes.
Because RTMP, those that have used it will quite often know you're doing a live show and there's like a 5 second, a 10 second, a 15 second, 20 second even delay for the audience. Here's what comes out of YouTube. Now, this is for 2 areas of performance, Mike, that we really need to look at. Firstly is the device that's generating the RTMP needs to have the performance to keep up with whatever standard of output it's doing, because if it doesn't work, you're going to lose the connection. And the second thing is the pipe that's sending the data between that unit and YouTube needs to be of a certain quality. Otherwise, again, if it doesn't, you're going to lose the connection. And for somebody who has lost connections to YouTube in the very recent past, that is a big problem. So could you perhaps give us a little bit of a coverage on that?
Sure. So basically, when it comes down to the performance of the machine, we have to make sure that the performance of the machine is not being overburdened, right? So you can only do so much in the machine, right? So we have to take that into consideration. And this is why a lot of people will actually instead do a lot of the actual RTMP encoding outside the software workflow. So they will, a lot of the time will say, okay, I'm going to use vMix inside the PC to mix the whole show, but I'm actually going to send the output of what I'm actually going to want to send out to YouTube into another device. And that device is a dedicated piece of hardware that its brain, that's what it was built for to do the whole time. And this is not necessarily an A10 Mini Pro, but these are other hardware encoders that's their only build. Yes, John.
Is that why a lot of gamers will have their streaming set up on a separate machine to their game, so their game can't encroach on their streamer and the streamer can't encroach on their game?
100%. 100%. Because again, the games are so intense on the GPU to make sure that the game looks pretty and that they don't die because of the fact of them online gaming and the GPU has to keep up, the internet connection has to keep up, just for them to make sure that they can actually win the game, that they've offloaded that to an additional PC, and its job is strictly to send to all the different platforms that I want to be able to, all my gaming platforms of Twitch and YouTube. Yes, we haven't talked about Twitch yet. Twitch is in here too somewhere. Twitch, YouTube, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, where are all the different, gaming platforms that they want to send to. Yes. So 100%, that's why a lot of the gaming guys will do that.
That's fantastic. I did warn you at the beginning that we'd never get into this subject as deep as we really need to.
No,
And we are a third of the way through, and all we've done is give the path for one protocol.
right.
So let's double our score then, because there's another way of talking to YouTube, for instance, SDI. Now, Mike, so we don't have to spend another 5 minutes going through the whole tree again, can I assume that there are a number of cameras, switchers, and pieces of software that could just use SDI instead of RTMP?
Oh, I think you're getting the protocols mixed up. Did you mean SRT?
I
Instead of
did
SDI.
mean SRT. SDI is how you talk to something else. Thank you. Good job you're
Yeah.
here.
So SRT was those other letters that I was talking about, everybody.
Yeah.
That we like SRT a little bit more, if not a lot more, because it is the buzzword of live streaming of, we want to reduce our, altogether now, latency. So this is the infamous RTMP has more latency than SRT. So what does that mean? It means that they're basically, they work the same, and I'm going to be very vague by saying that, and everybody who go in chat will go, Mike, they're not the same. Right, they're not the same. But let's just stay at a very basic level and say that they are sending an audio video stream from an encoder to a server. Let's stay at that level. Let's all be in
Okay.
agreement that we're talking about that level. Because yes, there's listener, there's the whole, I'm not getting into the SRT protocol, because again, that's its own show. So when it comes to RTMP versus SRT, yes, SRT is now the new king, because of the fact that the latency from the actual encoder to the server has been reduced drastically. So basically, that is where SRT now comes into play. So go ahead, John.
Does that mean that SRT is more vulnerable to bad connections or bad PCs or breaks and things? Or has it improved that as well?
Less vulnerable, because you can actually, in the actual SRT protocol itself, which is the big difference between the RTMP protocol and the SRT protocol, is SRT protocol is a lot more, and again, I'm going to be very generic, and everybody's going, like, there's other things. Okay. Generic version of SRT is that, yes, you can actually build in more of a buffer. And again, I'm going to be very generic when I say that word too, that will give more tolerance to bad internet connections, or internet connections that were great 2 minutes, 2 seconds before you started, but all of a sudden 5 minutes in, all of a sudden you lost your internet connection. Why? Because something. And all it
Okay.
takes too is somebody walking by with a wonderful cell phone that all of a sudden disturbs your internet too.
Fantastic. I've just done a ChatGPT check because it just seems too complicated to do. Asking it what the protocols used by the various platforms, social media platforms are. And
Right.
as usual, it's not giving me a good answer, and I'll probably have to ask it
No.
another 3 questions to get sense out of it. But
Yeah.
I do have a bit here which does suggest to me, I say suggest because you never trust these AIs, do you? That YouTube will take RTMS,
RTMPS,
RTMPS
right?
recommended.
Right.
HLS ingest also supported. We haven't talked about that one yet.
Yes.
Facebook Live, RTMPS.
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn Live, RTMP and RTMPS.
Mm-hmm.
S is for secure, isn't it?
Yes. S is
Yeah.
it gives it becomes it adds the additional security level on it. Yeah.
Okay. So Twitch, RTMP, X Live Producer. You see, it's not listened to what I asked it, and it's telling me
Live
something.
producer. Interesting. That's a bit of a dinosaur, but yeah, continue.
Yeah, and Instagram Live Producer, it doesn't give an answer for. So
chances are if it's Instagram, which I believe is Meta, so it should be under the same umbrellas as Facebook, would be my answer to that.
Okay. And then it starts jabbering on about SRT and doesn't answer my question. So
Right.
I think we have, though, pretty well suggested that there is a method to stream into one piece of social media and to get a social media response. We are going to talk about the feedback because it's an interesting challenge in itself. But before we go to that, we want to really think about making it easier. I think that's probably the simplest way of saying, I want to make it easier. So if you want to make it easier, we want to then go and find a restreaming platform. At least that's what restream.io would like you to call it, because it then remembers their name. What I mean is we are going to use a piece of software. We will send our event to a piece of software in the cloud, and we let the piece of software in the cloud organize the connection for you. Now, as far as I can see, and as I'm using that type of tool myself, as far as I can see, there are two really good reasons for doing that. One is you only have to get the connection right to one box, and it can set up the events and do all the squiggly stuff in the background and the connection stuff in the background and do it all for you and connect up. The second reason why this is quite neat is you can also, if the app allows it, you can also choose more than one endpoint. So you can get as silly as us, where you are posting to 4 YouTube channels, 1 LinkedIn channel, 1 Facebook channel. Could have added even more, in fact. So that's another reason for having these types of devices. In Zoom, for instance, there is settings so that you can set up Zoom in advance. So it knows how it's going to stream to your streaming platform. And I know there are devices and commands in other pieces of software. For this particular instance, I pretty much consider that Zoom is an app for video conferencing. It can stream to the social media, just like all the other products are out there. Teams can stream. I don't know any of them that can't stream, actually, that I've come across. They can all stream to a particular protocol. And if you want to keep it simple for you, but give opportunities of complexity for your streaming, then these independent third-party cloud apps that you can stream to, and then they'll send it all on, is fantastic because it makes it easier to manage. I could share the screen I have at the moment for my product, which is a live streaming product. I'm just pulling it up so I can describe it to you. I might share it to you in a second because there's no problem sharing. This is called a switchboard, and I'm just checking the screen. So I've got a live screen running here at the moment, and I can see a time delayed version of me because it's telling me what's coming back. It's got my encoding sessions. Yeah, I could share this, couldn't I, Mike? I might share this in a second. It's got the connection information for me. So that's the connection information that I use to connect my Zoom in this case to. And then it's got a list of all the social media apps and their accounts that I've already programmed to and connected to. And it shows me the connections to all those. And then I just hit the streaming. Actually, Mike, I'm not going to share the screen because I'm too scared I'm going to break it.
Understood.
But yes, you can connect to those streams. And what's nice, and I have checked, this works on other products. This will work on Restream as well as Switchboard. You can set up the accounts that you want to have access to. And it tends to remember the, the registration login for a certain period of time. Obviously, the platform forces you to time out and you have to reconnect now and again, but that's normal for social media. However, I only have to connect remember, I want to go to YouTube, I want to go to LinkedIn. So I only have to connect the profile image of the video content I'm going to create, a title and description, and the restreaming software in the middle passes all of that data on to the social media accounts, sets them up in advance. And that means I don't have to do all that virtual paperwork. I don't have to go into every single account and then find out what their stream keys are and put them back in the system. I have the stream keys that get me to the thing in the middle, my restreaming protocol, and my restreaming protocol will go and set up all the accounts, all the links, or do whatever the preview is that's available on those. It all goes in there. And then what we do for this show is a few minutes out, I will connect my Zoom to that service, and I can see it working on that service, and I'm connected. And then when it's time to go live, I hit the start streaming button, and then I watch for all the little connections to go live. LinkedIn's always last. Don't know why, but LinkedIn's always last. YouTube's usually first. Facebook's usually in the middle. LinkedIn's always last, which means we get a bit more white space at the beginning for YouTube. And that's a challenge that I've got to think about how we make that better. But this is the one direction for going out. Mike, if there's anything you want to add to that, otherwise we'll talk about the other problem. Keeping up with your audience at the other end.
The other problem. Oh my, yes. But yeah, so actually Tony from YouTube, hello, Tony. You're very psychic when you said, quote unquote, can you briefly cover how a platform like Restream can be helpful in certain workflows? Within milliseconds afterwards, what does come out of John's mouth? Oh, how do we restream? Yes. So just to reiterate what John said, to make sure that everybody understands. So one feed is leaving, as John takes a quick drink, one feed is leaving the actual encoder. You do not necessarily, now we're not going to get complicated with this, everybody. And you'll say, Mike, I can send multiple feeds from the same encoder. Yes, you can. And look at John already shaking and wishing that wasn't necessarily water in his water bottle at that point.
Bandwidth alert. Right. Bandwidth alert. Yeah. Please don't stream multiple. This has been a Lord Zoom service announcement.
That's right. Exactly. And there's reasons for this too. So not only do you have to make sure your encoder can handle the multiple streams that you're going to stream out. So we're talking performance again, but we're also talking about now bandwidth. Yes. And bandwidth is the key. If you've got just enough for one, don't put two. Don't try three. Heaven forbid, try five like we're doing today. 5, 6, 6, 6.
6.
2 for John, 2 for me, 6. Yeah. So we're doing 6 today. So if you take the math, everybody, and don't say that, oh yeah, I can do it because I got 100 meg up. Fine. Again, you would have to send out 6 feeds from one piece of hardware that already you might be allocating to also do something else above and beyond just to stream out of the machine. And this is where we're going back to what John's talking about when we're talking the gamers. They've even learned that, heaven forbid, share the same hardware with the gaming that they're doing to make sure that the gaming doesn't lose, so they don't actually lose in the game. At least if they're losing, it's their skill set now that they didn't shoot right at the right time or do something at the right time in the game. heaven forbid it actually be that their screen started to freeze because they're running their CPU and GPU at 100%.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, so
Please
when
be
it comes
warned.
to, so when it comes to that stuff, yes. So restreaming, absolutely. So finding your favorite restreaming service definitely is, if you do have a client that needs you to go to all their social medias at the same time, then definitely a restreaming service definitely helps. If you're just going one-to-one, then chances are your encoder to the actual service that you're using, should it be a YouTube only, a Facebook only, notice the word only. Again, as long as you're using only one out, then you'll be fine to go direct, right? And we're not talking yet about backup streams. We're not going down that road yet. I'll leave that up to John if we are going to touch doing backup streams as well today. I doubt it.
The answer to that, my friend, is I can't find any concrete advice to give apart from ask, because I just don't think that these platforms are set up to do backup streams well. I know you can do it YouTube. I know YouTube has had a backup stream facility for
Long time.
for forever. Yeah, certainly before
Yes.
COVID as a as a marker.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think a lot of these other platforms have the complexity. And I'm guessing, with all due respect to a lot of the users using it, a lot of the users would have difficulty finding a way of producing a backup stream at the same time as well. If your connection's bad, you're going to need, you'd need 2 encoder feeds, and you probably need 2 different internet connections for streaming those 2 feeds through 2 connections.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's not going to do any good, Mike, is it? Because if your internet
Right.
connection goes down, it's no good having a backup down the same internet connection.
Right. That's right. You've got to make sure that the chain doesn't break somewhere, right? So you've got your primary going out the primary internet connection using the primary encoder, be it in your software or whatever. That is your primary encoder that's going down your primary internet pipe to the primary RTMP server.
Yeah.
Now you've got your backup. Again, here we go again. Backup encoder going down a backup internet connection, going to the same RTMP server, and making sure that the RTMP service and server understands that, oh, if this primary dies, flip over to that backup, please. Thank you. That when? After X amount of criteria.
Yep.
And this is where YouTube is really good, where it says it's going to keep, do its best to stay up for X amount of seconds. But if I've got a backup stream, I'm going to go to it.
Fantastic. Well, I think we've given some information about that without going too deep, which is a relief, because it's just too dangerous a path. But if you can, then do. I think that's probably the most sensible thing to say. If you can, then do. If you can't, then you just have to be winging it like we are, effectively, with the one stream.
Right.
Of course, if you are doing any of this, don't forget to be recording your main show, because if it does go wrong, you can always upload it. It does frustrate people, obviously. It does mean that the people that went there to watch it live are disappointed because your system wasn't good enough to keep going, and it may have been out of your control. But if you have a backup and you upload it, most people will drop on by later. But the idea of having people joining us live is that if they're scared, they don't feel that they want to come and sit in our lovely plush Zoom auditorium webinar space where we have a few hundred seats available. Popcorn not included, but chat and polls are. And it's a lovely place to sit. But if you don't have the time to go in there, then you may be watching through the social media feeds. In fact, why would we be doing the social media feeds if we didn't want to encourage people to listen? And this is where you as a producer have, I think, Mike, the biggest problem, which is now you set up 6 feeds. Who the heck's going to keep an eye on all the 6 feeds to make sure that any questions get picked up as they come in? I know it's you, but that's a big problem, isn't it? That is a big challenge.
It is.
And if your end user customer says, I want to stream to this, I want to stream to that, you better remind them that if they stream to those platforms and there's just been a comment just made that second, I've seen out the corner of my eye. If anybody wants to make a comment to the tube or the various tubes that you have or the LinkedIn, then you do need somebody to be able to look at it and say, I see we've got a message from Tony.
Yes, we do. And Tony knows something about what's happening on Tuesday, but we'll talk about that later, right, John?
Tony's promoting our other channels for us. That's very kind of him. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
This is difficult. Poor Mike, cue the violin, has now, because of my overzealous nature, effectively got 6 different platforms he should be, in theory, keeping his eye on. He doesn't have to keep an eye on all 6, because I happen to know that one of them hasn't got any viewers at the moment. So that's 5. But it is a problem and it's an issue, because if you don't, the whole idea of going live is to be interactive. That's the idea. And to be interactive, you're going to live stream to something where there's going to be chat. If you don't take any notice of the questions and the comments that are having in the chat, even if the presenter is just waffling on and not taking any notice of the chat, you do need somebody in your team, a social media person maybe, to talk to the social media and have conversations with them. And if you don't, I do question the use of live streaming. You might as well have pre-recorded it and just upload it at a particular date and time. And then, Mike, there is the challenge. Can you, as a lot of the gamers do, and this is the best example of why it works, bring some of those questions, some of those comments, maybe a lower third or a graphic on the screen, so that you're baking in that conversation? Now we're starting to look cool.
Sure. But now you've got to, now you have to have a means of being able to bring all the feeds from all the social media platforms into one wonderful app. I don't like the word app, but let's put it place that understands that these are all the chats that are coming in. Then you've got this data, which is now the chat data. And now you want to be able to throw them up as a lower third, or you want it to pop up above you, below you, wherever, to the side of you. However, you want to have the live chat all of a sudden on the right-hand side, left-hand side. Sure, all that is capable, but what becomes more of a concern then at that particular point is that, okay, can a one-man band host? I'm doing my best, as Johnny is the main host, being the co-host. I'm also video switching in our Z production studio, and we're sending that out to our multiple platforms, and I'm also watching all the chat from multiple platforms. But for me to be able to be a live hosting person all the time and chat and do this and do that at the same time, it can get quite difficult.
I think that's an understatement. It's a nightmare. And the reason we brought this up is because if you're having your conversation with your client, whether the client is your marketing department or a customer that you're producing for, this is a question that you need to bring up at the beginning. as soon as they start talking about, we want to connect to some social media and we want to do it live, you have to think of the implication. Firstly, the implications is it's going to take more technology and teamwork for you guys to host this, video it, switch it, and then send something to a streaming service that you've set up for them. And then you're either going to have to provide an extra team of social media people, or they might provide it themselves, who are going to deal with the chat that happens at the other end, the feedback from the users. And then, of course, you have that final discussion of, well, how do we bring, should, but how do we bring that content back to fill the whole loop? How do we bring that content back into the webinar, the presentation? Now, you may not have a presenter who can jump off at a tangent and find his way back to the script, as I believe I can do sometimes. They might have a full presentation and a slideshow, and they're just going to plow through that. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Because you can put aside a time for Q&A. And that Q&A can be from the audience in whatever scenario you are in, whether you're online or face-to-face or hybrid, doesn't matter. And you can then, somebody can have cut and paste maybe, or taken screenshots even of the chat that's happened at the same time in the socials. So you can bring that into the Q&A. And just one little other aside, which ChatGPT didn't mention, but I'm sure Mike might have a full presentation and a slideshow. And the other problem is sometimes people put in, I was trying to look down to see if I could find one, but actually our people today on YouTube are really, really good. Sometimes, very often, people make comments. And unless you know where in the presentation that comment was made, there is no context to their question and you have no idea what they're asking about. And that's probably the hardest thing to catch, because if you, well, it probably is not you. If the customer waits until the end to go and read all the chat, if they don't know the context of what was happening when each chat message was made, they will often go, I'll answer that question. I've got no idea what they're talking about. And that's true. They won't have, because without the context. And that is the final thing that trips you up. And my gosh, we've managed to nail the outline of this whole process in our hour. I am so proud of you, Mike. We told you only had 5 minutes. You did your 5 minutes, and we have successfully gone through it. So let's see if I can remember what we just talked about.
All right, quiz time. Go for it.
So we started the camera, and we have cameras with the protocol that could talk direct to some RTMPS. But you did say, and we didn't talk about it, you did say there are possibly other protocols in the cameras that could talk to those social medias or to those streamers. So let's fill in the gaps. What other things could you do from the camera in this service that we've not talked about?
Okay. So there are, again, RTMP and SRT are the main ones that are what we would call industry standards in sending live feeds to streaming content delivery network. And I will be that vague with that because that officially is, and everybody says, what's a streaming content delivery network? Example, YouTube, Facebook. So all the social medias have their own streaming content delivery network that they're either sharing or are built on their own so that you can live stream or
Okay.
even put up their VODs, right? So that's where we're going with that. So SRT and RTMP are definitely the big boys in the room. The older technology is RTSP, which again, if you're familiar with cameras back in the day, well, they still sort of do this, but RTSP is even worse on reliability because that was one of the more real-time, again, RT always stands for, RTMP is our real-time media protocol. RTSP was our real-time streaming protocol. So it was actually the original streaming protocol, but it did not have a lot of capabilities of being able to, if you were sending from your encoder to a server / decoder, what ends up happening then is if there was any break in the internet, the protocol wasn't smart enough to go, oh, I should reconnect again. At least with RTMP, it will try to reconnect again, where SRT knows that it should connect again. And I'm going to
Okay.
get be as vague as that as possible, because
Fantastic.
again, because protocols could be its own show, gang. I'm being serious
Yeah.
when it comes to that. Go ahead, John.
So, from what you said today, RTMP is going to be the standard that most people are going to expect to use, and that's
Yes.
fine.
Yes.
But there are quite a few places now in the pyramid that have SRT protocols, and your advice, and I think I'm going to probably agree with you. I'm definitely going to agree with you. SRT would be a preferable way. So I will use an example. Our streaming service, we have in Switchboard on my controls, we have the ability to get the signal from here as RTMPS or as SRT. So I could send my connection to the streaming service as SRT, which we've been recommended by Mike, because he's the guy that knows that that's the best protocol.
Yeah.
What people may not realize is that doesn't force our streaming service to have to copy us. Our streaming service will still connect to the social media, the YouTubes and all the others on our behalf, and it will use whatever protocol it thinks is right for what it's doing. If it decides it wants to use RTMP or maybe SRT, then it can. If one of those is not available, if there was a different protocol needed, it could do that as well. So the other advantage of having a product like Switchboard or Restream in the middle is, Mike, I suggest that you can have your best connection to it, and it can then choose the best connection for all the social media that it needs to connect to, and they can be different if it's thought that a different protocol is better for those situations. So you only have one setting to set up for yourself, and it worries about all the rest for you. Is that about right?
Yeah, that is very fair. That is very fair, because again, if you were doing everything yourself, you might be sending RTMP here, you might be sending RTMPS there, like John went down the list. You might be sending SRT over here. And again, excuse me, that basically that then gets to the point of you not having, again, so each protocol will need its own encoder, which needs its own service, right? So again, when you're sending to a Restream or a Switchboard Live type of service where they do the restreaming, it is their job, because you are paying them to make sure that they keep up to date with all the social media platforms that are out there that they support. And I think Switchboard we're only, even though we're touching maybe 4, I think they've got a lot more than that, John, right?
I think they've got some others. And to take your comment there, an example, people may or may not know that the rules for LinkedIn have changed recently.
Right.
And that would have meant that these restreaming platforms would have had to change the way that they work to fit in with the change in the rules by LinkedIn. And of course, if a new social media platform would maybe announce a new protocol, You don't have to change your end. Your end is working in the same way every single time. And if you get the hint that I'm suggesting that this interim software between you and the social medias is a good idea, I am. Blatantly, I am. It just makes things so much easier. It's easier to manage. If things go wrong, there's only one place you have to check. It's easier to fix. And it's just easier. It's just, I mean, for instance, I've got a picture. I can see what's going to the streaming platform. I'm able to set up the connection between me and the streaming platform before we go live on all the socials. So I know that my service is getting to the platform, and then I just start streaming to all the socials with one button. It does all the connections for me. If you consider Mike's got a nightmare trying to catch up on the chat, can you think of a nightmare it would be for us to try and get 6 different streaming connections to go live almost at the same time when the show starts? It would be, well, I just wouldn't do it. It would just be. And to me, that's 120 meg of connections, because I usually say a connection I want to keep 7 to 10 meg, and everybody will tell you that your connection is not guaranteed. It's shared with other people. The contention ratio can be different in different places, but you are not guaranteed all 100 meg of your 100 meg upload if that's what you have. Got 200 meg uploads, so I can split my service between those two. But 10 meg is what I say is the highest, and you need double that in case of problems. So that's 20 meg per connection, 6 connections. That's 120 meg. Oh, and we haven't, as Mike hinted, we haven't added the other connection, which of course is this Zoom that we're using. That's got upload and download streams as well.
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah. And again, if you're using their enhanced media product, which we won't get into because this is the wrong show, but
yeah.
yes, that will actually kick it up even a couple more notches on the bandwidth side.
Yeah, we couldn't use that in this setup. So my system here is running, I can tell you because it gives me this thing. I'm running 30 FPS and I'm running at 4.8 megabits. So you would think with a 100 meg uplink, that's safe. That and one Zoom. I have now and again seen problems with it. I'm based in the UK, so when I do most of my streaming, it's in evening time, which means all the kids and the gamers and the YouTube and Netflix watchers are all in the country as well. But I not feel compelled, but obviously a lot of my viewers, a lot of my listeners, a lot of my audience are US based as well as UK based. So it makes sense for me strategically to be producing content, which is the evening, early evening for the UK, and is afternoon and morning for the US and Canada. Mike, I haven't forgotten you. That means that I am producing my content, and although I've got 3 different broadband suppliers, I can't escape my pseudo commercial contract from the fact that those internet providers are still providing broadband services to all the other properties around me as a consumer product. I don't have a guaranteed fiber link from my front door all the way to the offices of Switchboard Live. I've got to share. So whenever I do a communication check, I will always halve whatever broadband supply I have before I even start adding up the numbers. Quality into one supplier obviously then makes sense. And that one supplier can then be responsible for sending it out to my other social. I'm using, I tried to think about what I was using. I'm using Zoom to send to my system. Does that mean that Zoom is sending it from the cloud? Actually, no, for certain. I could use a camera. Could have used one of Mike's cameras. I could have used a video switcher. I could have used one of my boxes behind me, software switcher software. However, unless I'm only going to one social media platform, I would always choose a restreaming service to send my signal on. And I think that's the strongest point I'd like to leave you with. Keep your own part of the system. Simple. Because when it goes wrong, there is no time to fix it. When you're doing something live, there is no time to fix it. That's why we're using Zoom, because our production software for this particular show is called Production Studio. It's part of Zoom. This is not, well, it is a plug to Zoom, but it's not directly just to plug Zoom. It's to give you the point that if Mike lost his connection and he's doing all the switching for us, I can take over that software and do the switching from here. So we have an environment that we've built for ourselves here, which has a level of resilience, maybe a bit extreme resilience because we've put the two guys in two different continents. Maybe that's resilience more than most people would plan for, but we are literally either side of the Atlantic Ocean producing this show, and everything that we do and we have control of, yeah, pretty much everything we have control of at this moment in time. I've got some ideas to move the show on again because we're going for 9 months now, but everything we have, we could do individually. It might be an overload to take up all the different tasks, but if I was to disappear, then Mike could just take over, just like this.
Yes, I'm here. He's still there too, by the way. You did mute yourself, John, though, when you did that.
Exactly. And when I can't speak, Mike is there to speak for me. You see, it's resilient. I actually planned that one. That makes a change. So your system is resilient. And if it's resilient up to the restreaming service, it's then up to the restreaming service to be resilient from there on in. But
right.
And
that's what you are paying for, everybody, when you buy one of those services per month.
Yeah.
But again, you've still got to make sure that the content that you get to them, that's on you. That's not on them. You have to have reliable internet. You have to have reliable gear. You have to have a reliable feed. You have to have a good quality feed. That is all you. If that is taken care of, then they have nothing to do. All they're doing is they're taking in what you've given them and just going beep, 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 beep. Restreaming, right? Is what they're doing. They basically say one in, okay, how many out? All right, I'm telling the system I'm going to do this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. But it's important to understand that if the quality is terrible on those, once you have to, and again, John, you can tell a little bit what you're actually seeing in the interface. John actually sees the quality of audio and video that we're sending out to Switchboard Live. So he knows that what we are seeing, and if you're joining us on excuse me, on the actual Zoom Webinar Plus that we also are running the show in, you will actually see as an attendee the equivalent to what we are also sending to stream Switchboard Live, which is also, of course, as long as we said that Switchboard Live, That's what Switchboard Live is sending to YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn and insert here. Oh, and Mr. John is being dangerous, and I will show you why John is being dangerous. Here we go.
Yeah, we're at the end of the show, Mike. So I thought I'd take the risk. So this is the health of the connection. And of course, this then tells me if I got a problem. And as I said, I have had warnings before that the signal's not good enough for sometimes. But there is an idea there. You see, it's sending it tells me what my actually, Mike, can you explain all the numbers? Because I don't know half of them.
Don't know half of them. Sure. Yeah, just give me a sec here. When it comes to, let's see, and I've got to find that share so that we can see that you can see you and John and I. There we go. I found it, everybody. All right. So we're all here now. So basically the stream health. So the video bit rate. So the video bit rate information that John sees, that's the first number, the 4.84 kilobit per second, or sorry, megabit per second is the actual stream that Switchboard Live is receiving from our friends at Zoom. Ta-da!
Yep.
All right. And upload ratio of 0.33%. I'm going to assume, John, that's related to your account, because I think that the upload ratio to me feels like it is related to how much of your total account is being used. I'm just going to go down. That's more in that regards. And then of course the infamous 30 FPS, everybody knows what that is, right? That is a production professional that's watching the Power Hour, 30 frames a second. And again, of course, how are we sending that? And the signal is stable. Green check mark. We like signals that are stable. So again, if it was unstable, Switchboard Live would be letting John know that Zoom and Switchboard Live are having issues. Right?
Yeah. And it's quite scary when they put a box up.
Right.
So then we've got the protocol and the profile. Oh, I got a high profile. That must be posh.
Yeah. So I can explain what the high profile basically means is that there is a certain and I'll be tech for 30 seconds. And John, that is an FFmpeg profile setting.
Ah, he knows that.
And that's all I'm going to say. And then everybody, if you heard what I said, Google it / put it into your favorite AI and you will realize what FFmpeg does for the industry besides everything.
Okay. So I'm going to get lots of abuse for the next box, aren't I?
Lots of booze, potentially.
Yeah.
Yes. That we're only, you only are sending from our friends at Zoom only 720p. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So in my defense, we had problems getting the connection working today. Zoom wouldn't talk to Switchboard. Well, no, it was worse than that. Zoom thought it was talking to Switchboard, but the Switchboard box wasn't showing me the image and wasn't receiving the connection. So I reset it 3 times, I think, before we got it working. And of course, being a chicken, I downgraded it to 720 instead of 1080 because I was having problems. Any idea what a GOP size is? And is it of any interest, or is it just
that? Yeah. So when it comes to the GOP duration of 2 seconds, that is that is good. That is a good number. That is so GOP.
Don't worry if you don't know what it is. They could have put these numbers up just to look clever.
Yeah. Again, the GOP duration is not a bad thing. If you have a larger GOP duration, there is potential that if there is any internet outages, that it will be a lot more. All of a sudden, when you come back, it won't actually be able to catch up nicely.
Okay.
I'll be that generic with that. And then, of course, there's your infamous latency number. So that's the latency between.
That's good.
Yeah. And there's a reason they have it as green. So that is the latency between our friends at Zoom and Switchboard Live getting the feed. So that's how much latency there is there. Then we've got the keyframe, which again is 2 seconds, which is good because it matches your GOP. So that's
Yep.
very good. So again, if it didn't match your GOP, then that's where you could start getting frames being dropped. And bitrate stability, okay, that's just coming up with a stable. Good. So that it's not, so basically that stable terminology coming from Switchboard Lite is just letting you know that it has a stable connection between the two for that long of duration. And if it became
Terrific.
unstable, obviously you would see that there.
That's fantastic because it's been showing me about 4.8 almost the entire time. So it's a nice stable connection. And I believe, and maybe one day somebody's going to explain it to me in Zoom, I believe that connection is going directly from Zoom servers to me, to the service, which is something
Correct.
I mention now because we haven't said anything about that. And maybe we should just say one simple thing. We've talked about your connection, and we said you have to have your internet connection right. In this particular case, I believe that Zoom is sending the connection from its cloud to the restreaming service, and it's the connection between those two. It may not be that way because there are different ways to connect to Zoom, but that is one thing we didn't consider or didn't think about. Whether your video conferencing app is sending the RTMP or whatever your protocol is going to be to your restreaming service or to your social medias, is it sending it from your network? And if you're using a hardware device like this, then the answer is obviously yes, because the physical device is in your room, so it's going to be through your network. But there are quite a few pieces of software that you might use where your piece of software might not be in your room. So it might be part of the, like Zoom, I'm guessing Vimeo, for instance, would probably be this same situation, that you would be using Vimeo and you'd be uploading and downloading to Vimeo. But if you stream from Vimeo, I'm pretty sure that Vimeo service will send the stream over. But it's one thing that I hadn't thought about until this last 58th minute of the show, and thought we better throw in. But there are times, Mike, aren't there, when it's not going to be actually the RTMP or the SDI feed is not going to be originating in your physical office, and that might be for some an advantage.
Yeah, and I've got to clarify again. John did it again with the different acronyms. We're not talking SDI again. We're talking SRT.
SRT.
But yeah, when it comes to RTMP or SRT,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Mike is bullying me so much to switch all of my computers and my cameras to SDI from HDMI that SDI is all I have on my head whenever I see him.
That's true.
So
And
I apologize.
And that's not a bad thing, because we all in the production world, we all love locking connections, don't we? Everybody that uses XLRs. We want to make sure that we hear that click. And we now with the SDIs, we have a push and twist. Absolutely. Where in HDMI, all of a sudden, oh, did I step on the cord? Boop. Yeah, I guess we did. So basically the scenario there is that when John is talking about from Zoom, yes, it comes from their cloud. So basically it's going from their cloud to Switchboard Live's cloud. And that actually, I like that last screen that I saw, John, too. That actually would have been interesting to show just before we should finish that up. But I did like that. I don't know if you want to show that or not, but
yeah, we can show that screen. It's not going to look so impressive now because the numbers are dropping, but they're realizing we're getting to the end. So, and we've gone to our hour, so maybe that's why we're also losing some people. But if I can find the right button, I will give that back to you in a second.
all right.
There we go. Share. And I want that one there.
Yeah.
Optimize the video.
Fun
share,
live
don't
television,
share
everybody.
sound.
Live streaming. See, it's
And
not
a
much
good
different
example of
than
why you
television.
need extra people to help you with
That's
your
right.
system.
There you go.
So here you can
we come.
see Would you like to explain this all, Mike?
Sure. So basically, so on the very left-hand side, of course, John has got multiple tabs open, but on the very left-hand side, if anybody is familiar to the layout of YouTube Studio, this has a little bit of YouTube Studio feel to it. So on your actual left-hand side, so yes, you get to see how much of a delay there actually is, because that is your input screen that Zoom is sending to Switchboard Live. And on the actual right-hand side is all the different sites, and I will call it that. Should it be social media sites, or even you could actually have in here too custom RTMPs leaving Switchboard Live as well, but and custom SRTs as well. But we won't get into that. But right now, what you're seeing right now from John is that these are all the different ones, and you can see all the green toggles that are actually telling you that it's being sent and the status of it. And if you can see that on the buttons themselves, which I'll make everybody so they can see the fine print a little bigger, that it basically says public in front of above each board, each toggle, to let you know that it's actually being publicly sent to those platforms, where there it would actually show public, private, or unlisted when it comes to YouTube. Did I miss anything on the interface there, John?
No,
Maybe.
no. There's a little red live by each of the icons, which is what I have to wait for to see when they're all connected live. And then, of course, you have the title for each one and the number of people left. I am not surprised nobody's watching my Facebook feed, because I haven't used my Facebook feed for probably 2 years. And we didn't tell anybody that we were going to publish to these extra feeds. The annoying thing is LinkedIn doesn't seem to respond any data back for who's live. So we can't tell from this screen who is live. But that's how that system works. And you can see there's a big stop streaming button. That used to be a start streaming button, which started it all off. And so, yeah, the process for this is really easy. I need to connect those RTMP settings in the bottom left to my Zoom account, so Zoom knows how to talk to Switchboard. And then I just choose all these connections that I've already pre-configured and linked up and authorized to Facebook, YouTube, etc. And then I just turn on the ones I want to make available. And I can do that before the event, and it will then create the upcoming videos on YouTube and all the other things it does elsewhere. And then when we're ready to go, we just stream to this service from our app, which is Zoom. And then the Switchboard then streams onto all these social medias for us. And I have to say, it's pretty damn good. I mean, if you've ever tried to connect up properly, I say properly as in, do all the connections and the thumbnails and the titles and everything. If you've ever tried to do that for just one social media account, just imagine what a nightmare it would be, as I said earlier, to do it for 6 just before the show, or even if I did it a week ago to pre-announce. That's a lot of work. It's a lot of potential problems. And then I'd have to connect those 6 up by hand, and then I'd have to have the bandwidth. But if you go above 1, I genuinely hope that it would be a no-brainer for you to use one of these products. It's just so much easier. And bringing the chat back. Well, I know we've been a little bit of a suggestion that that's a disaster zone. You usually have 1 or 2 social media paths that are going to be the most common. And if you can have a member of staff keeping an eye on those, then that's probably okay. If you've got a lot of, like we have, and there are a lot of Vega ones that not use much, then maybe you just wouldn't take the effort to support all of them. But it's possible. And I can tell you, because I'm involved in some of it, and I know the people who were involved in others, there are many people who are looking at this whole idea of the conversation outside on your social media platforms, how to bring it into production. And really, it's about time, let's be honest, because if you go and play with all these streamers on their Twitch channels and all the other things, they've got all those features built in already. Even known people to use those particular methods to bring content in. So I am sure, because I know it's being done, that there are people working on better ways to bring all of that chat from all the social into here, so you can display it in some way within your product. We know it's happening in Zoom, and I think some of the products which I've heard about would probably work on any platform. Can't say. I'm not under an NDA. It's more of I'm not supposed to know situation. So I won't say any more about that. Apart from, I'd love to thank Mike for the great work he's done today, because we've made him work a bit harder. Thank you, Mike, for doing production studio. Thank you, Mike, for being our social media expert, keeping on the social media. Thank you, Mike, for